Okay, so would you rather have to try to survive a zombie outbreak or have to try to survive a robot uprising?
Mm-mm.
So either
Uh-huh.
zombies or robots. One of them is becoming a problem, and like you've got your action
Yeah,
movie, your disaster
yeah.
movie.
I love apocalypse. Would you rather questions?
Yeah, so which of these two apocalypses would you rather have to try to survive?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to 1000 Crazy Questions, the podcast. I'm your currently sane host, Houston Pierce. This is a podcast where I have at least one guest a week and ask them a series of crazy would you rather questions. We get into the psyche of our guests and explore topics and questions that maybe shouldn't be explored. To my questions from you, listener, from a list of 1000 questions, you can submit questions and suggestions at me at 1kcrazyquestions@gmail.com or at 1000 Crazy Questions on Instagram. That's 1000 on Instagram. And I'm also on TikTok now at Houston Pierce. Please rate and follow 1000 Crazy Questions on podcast apps. I can't think of them right now. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Podcast Guru, and all those other good places. And Podchaser, and a little bit more about that at the end. And there it is. That's the intro out of the way. Let's get into the episode this week. This week we have with us writer of Junkworld, The Ballad of Leroy Brown, Mr. Stangeland Jr.
Yes, hello, and thank you for having me on. MK Stangeland Jr. And I did have a book published last year, science fiction, but I think we'll be getting more into that at the end. And for now, it's the focus is let's see what kind of fun we can have with questions.
Do you ask questions a lot or get would you rather questions? I guess I'd be more specific in your day-to-day life or, like is it because
Well,
it's very, yeah,
I'd say that in my day-to-day experience, I usually don't run into circumstances where I'm specifically asked by others kind of like if or questions, though I do spend a lot of time thinking about unusual scenarios, which I think is a byproduct of the fact that I am a writer. Because one of the things that makes writing work is thinking things out, and a lot of times, especially when you're dealing with science fiction and fantasy, is thinking through scenarios that you would not encounter on a daily basis and then figuring out how to resolve those situations.
yeah. In my experience, that's kind of been writers seem to be the most creatively, what's the word I'm looking for, flexible, in terms of like how they're able to navigate a question or reason something out. Not that they're always like, not that they have the quickest answer, but
uh,
just that, yeah, it's fun for me to pose questions to writers.
all
Yeah,
right.
it's because you guys make up your own stuff, and I'm not really a writer naturally, so. But I'm going to turn on that little pre-recording for the people to hear the rules to this game. There are two rules to this game/conversation. Rule number one, you must always answer the question no matter what. If you have no preference towards one or the other, you say the phrase flip a coin, meaning that each choice is 50-50 to you and that one is neither worse or better than the other. But that rarely happens, so it may not get used. Rule number two, whoever asks the question doesn't have to answer it if they choose not to. These rules exist because as the questions become harder to answer, the rules become harder to follow. This week, we have a Blue Bin episode, so the questions asked and topics discussed should be family friendly. Sorry, they will be family friendly. Check out the Red Versions podcast if you're into that. Things are exactly the same, just maybe a little bit raunchier. Otherwise, stay tuned. I promise the questions here are just as ridiculous, insightful, and every other adjective that you can think of. Michael, just want to remind you if you have different questions for me or variations of the question I've asked you, this is a conversational podcast. You are never interrupting. And actually, it's funny that you have the starter question for
Yeah,
us.
I wasn't initially considering doing it, but I did consider a few possibilities. One I've got that I think is very much on the silly side. Um, it may be a bit of a variant of sort of a question that's been out there that some people maybe ask, and hopefully it does still fit within the blue band. And it is, if you had,
Oh, 1 second. 1 second. Sorry, Michael, 1 second. disclaimer to the listeners: everything mentioned is hypothetical. It's I say that every week, but it's true. If you're offended, you can at me. You probably won't answer. And thank you, Michael, for
Well,
being on. First question, go.
okay, so if you had to fight if you were in like an arena fight or just any kind of fight, fighting one of these two things to the death,
Okay,
would you rather have to fight a T Rex the size of a panda cub or a panda cub the size of a T Rex?
T-Rex. No, I've heard variations, but hold
Yeah.
on. I don't think I've heard this one. T-Rex, the size of a panda cub, or a panda cub, the size of a T-Rex. Panda cub, panda cub. I think I take the T-Rex. I think I take the little T-Rex because that's cute. I mean, what? It's a little jaw. I mean, it probably has a lot of bite force, and it's probably gonna be pretty ugly and everything. But it T-Rex, like the fact that I'm standing above it, if I kick it over, it's not getting back up. I mean, like those little arms. The only reason it did so well is because of how big it was. That thing scaled down to a
Yeah, I think
panda. Yeah.
yeah, I think I would in that circumstance, I would probably pick the T-Rex too because it's still probably going to be dangerous, but it's when you scale it down that much, it's going to be on a level that you can probably fight between the two. Because even if the giant panda cub isn't very threatening, it's still going to be trouble trying to actually, okay, I have a giant, massive panda here. How do I actually fight that?
Yeah, if I'm fighting it to the death, then it's gonna get angry and it will fight me, squash me, or something. No, I'll take the T-Rex. I'll take the T-Rex any day. And then also you can say I fought a T-Rex and just
uh,
not mention the
yeah,
second part of that.
that that reminds me of a moment that happened to me once. Like I can say it up front, like, hey, can I tell you about the time I got hit by a car and the car came out worse from it?
Has that happened to you? Are
Yes.
you
No,
speaking from?
there is a twist, but the fun part is saying it that way so that it's I mean, when I say it that way, it makes the story sound more interesting before I actually reveal how that actually worked.
Oh yeah, no, I get that. I'm asking, what is the twist? What is the truth
Well,
to
the
that?
twist is that yeah, I did have a car that came too close, but it was just the like side mirror that I got hit, and I think the side mirror may have been kind of weak anyway. So it's still it's kind of a fun small story that I can say that oh, I once got hit by a car and the car came out worse from it.
No, yeah, it adds to your to the toughness of everything. Yeah, it's just what it is. It's what's the word? Hubris? Gloating?
Well, I like to think it's one of
Everything.
those
Half true.
like one of those fun stories that kind of adds a little bit of spice to life. It's not a story that means it that amounts to much, but it's still one of those like I don't know. There's some kind of thing for a story.
Cool. But I was gonna ask you, would you rather be constantly tired or constantly hungry?
Oh, you know what? On some level, there's a part of me that feels like I am frequently tired anyway, which I think is a consequence of the fact that I keep a terrible sleep schedule. I'm very much a night owl, and I'm also very much a person that tries to squeeze as many hours out of the day as I can. So I think in that circumstance, it's easy to say, yeah, I'd rather be tired all the time.
I can relate to that actually,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm a night owl too, and I'm not proud of the fact that I work a lot, but that's going for like my like just work and the podcast. It's
yeah,
yeah, if there's not one, then it's the other. So yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, there is a certain point though where, where I think that eventually you manage to. I mean, the more you get used to it, the more you navigate it. Even though it does feel better to actually feel rested now and then. So yeah, so I'd say that one probably kind of an easy since I mean on some level I can kind of relate to being tired anyway.
What about the quality of work you do? You know, you're not supposed to really drive drowsy. That's actually more dangerous than like
Uh,
driving drunk. Or if you have something important to do, does that not worry you in that sense?
well, I mean, maybe, I mean, I guess a little if I think about it too much, though. I don't know. I think
Sorry, I'm
that
laughing because I'm trying to get you to think about it. Maybe.
no, I understand. I mean, that's your job hosting the podcast. No, I think that I'd probably be more miserable if I were hungry all the time.
Hmm.
Plus, I mean, if I'm hungry all the time, I'm more likely to be eating a lot more than I should. So
Hmm.
there's a I think that if I'm considering like long-term implications,
Hmm.
I mean, I think that if I'm going to suffer from being sleep deprived, it's going to be more of a sudden case that I'm not going, rather than more long term stretched out if I'm hungry and always trying to satiate that hunger.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually agree, especially when you mentioned eating when every time you're hungry. I eat every time I'm hungry. So if I was always hungry, it wouldn't work out for me. And yeah,
Yeah.
so that's a pretty good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
It there
I
is
think I agree with you.
I mean, there is the possibility that eventually I get used to it. I mean, so there is something to be said about that. I do have more familiarity with being tired than I do with being hungry. So it might be one of those, hey, I understand this. So it's easier to
Hmm.
go with a thing I understand than it is to go with something that feels that's that I'm less
Foreign?
well, yeah, more that's not a bad way of putting it. Something that I'm not experienced. It's like this thing that I know versus this thing that that I'm more inclined to imagine what it would be like.
Hmm. Okay, but okay, now we will leave this question, but are you saying like you haven't been hungry? Because I'm
You know,
just, it's kind of it's
I have been hungry before, but
yeah,
it's a sense of where when I feel hungry, it's smaller, it's far less frequent, and I'm far better equipped to handle it versus when I talk about like I like to get as many active hours as I can, and I don't sleep as much as I should. So
yeah,
I have far more familiarity
yeah.
with being tired
Would it
than I do with being hungry.
would it be fair to say that you've been truly exhausted, but you haven't been truly starving?
That would probably be a safe assessment.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, either way, like either way, they both kind of suck. So
You know what? That
yeah.
might not be a bad, you know, that might not be a bad one to segue into like might actually line up with one of the other questions I wrote down as for
Okay.
consideration.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So, speaking of food, would you rather be a vegetarian, not be able to eat any meat, or would you rather only be able to eat meat effectively? Would you rather be a vegetarian or a carnivore?
Yeah. Well, my immediate thought went to carnivore, but I I know that's very unhealthy. You can get, I think, gout that way, or maybe that's processed meats. I mean, I'm a omnivore and I'm not
Yeah.
allergic to anything. So I mean, I have foods I dislike, but there's no food I can't eat. So it's I, hmm, I guess I
Well, I
guess
mean, well,
veg
well, I don't know if I
vegetarians.
should. I don't know if I should. I
What
mean, 'cause
what?
well, I guess I mean, it could be either way. Like you're not allowed to versus can't, where versus I don't know. There might
Yeah,
be.
I'm thinking out loud. Don't no, I'm just thinking
Yeah.
out loud. To answer, because I'm reading your question or I'm hearing it as I can't. So,
Okay. Yeah.
so
That may be phrasing on my part. So
but so I can.
I guess whichever version you think makes for a more interesting question.
No, it's an interesting question because it forces me to go extreme either way. I
Yeah.
mean, the only more extreme version of this would be completely vegan or a carnivore, and that's even that's then I guess I choose carnivore because I don't know if I can do all of that. So I
Huh.
pick to the question stated, I pick vegetarian. I think they live pretty healthy lives. There's a bunch of papers and everything and studies of how vegetarians have this healthy heart here and they have these health benefits here. And while I kind of roll my eyes to that because I think a lot of it is omitting something here, I think a lot of that is a little bit fluffed up and it doesn't seem worth it. I rather take being healthier than having to eat meat all the time. And also meat is expensive and it's more it's just more to eat. If I go to a restaurant and they're like, "Hey, we have appetizers and salads, but we don't," and like I have like, well, I only need meat, and I can't eat potatoes, like I can't eat French fries. I don't have a starter salad. I don't have a soup. I don't have any other food on my plate but meat. I'd be sick of looking at that. No, but I'm big vegetarian. There, fruits, vegetables, bread, cheese, candy. Yeah, no. If meat becomes everything, I can't. Sweets
Okay.
alone break this question for me. Actually, a vegetarian sold.
Yeah. That might be one where I probably should have put more thought into the specific wording, but I do think it's still there is a certain level where I think it still kind of gets good there. I think my personal preference would definitely be the meat side of things because on
Really?
some level, yeah, and I think on some level, there's a part of me that said I'd already be there if it wasn't for the fact that there's so many, non-meat items that I enjoy. Like
Yeah.
like it's hard to have meat and potatoes if you're not allowed to have the and potatoes.
Yes. Yeah. But even with that, you still pick meat, even if potatoes are dropped.
Yeah, I'd say that I have a lot harder time missing out on meat than I would missing out on the vegetarian stuff, especially since there's so like I just like for example salads. I just do not eat salads. I mean I don't like lettuce. I mean there's so many plant things that I don't enjoy.
Hmm.
So,
All right. Yeah. No salads. I like salad. I think it's okay.
yeah.
I'm not a salad buff. I know there's some salad heads out there who are like who champion that, but I eat it occasionally. It's there. Why not? I'm more on the I'm chill with salad. It's there. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
interesting.
I mean, I think it also might, I mean, how it might work out will also depend on how you do include, I mean, how would you consider it? Like, I mean, would drinks break it either way, or could you have more flexibility if there wasn't so much limit on drinks? Or where do you think dairy sits? Because that's not really in the vegetarian category, but because that's from an animal. So that may be it more into look, are you going pure vegan or are you just vegetarian?
To answer this offshoot of vegan versus carnivorism, I made that word up. Uh, uh, that's way harder because you dairy and eggs and everything that's a product. Do vegans eat butter? Do vegans
I don't know. See, I don't
do?
know. See, I only know the basics about veganism. I've never delved into it very much.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, this
Yeah.
one I'm having now. I'm really joking on this one because I love meat, but I couldn't do it alone. I'd be sick of it. I just know
See,
myself.
see, that might be a better way I could have phrased the question. Like, would you rather if you were to divide the traditional food pyramid in half, where on one hand you can take from the meat and dairy category, on the other hand you can take from the bread, vegetables, and fruit category. Which of those two choices would you choose?
Oh, that's a good one, Mike.
Yeah.
That Michael. Do you prefer Mike or Michael?
I use Michael in casual conversation,
Okay. No,
but yeah,
Michael, that's a pretty good one.
yeah, that does sound like the way I should have just worded it in the
Yeah,
first place.
well, when you word it like that, now I'm really actually torn in half because I do like meat, but I do not want it alone. I couldn't do that. So
See,
if I can I take bread? Can I take meat and bread? And Yeah.
I'd say with this
Uh,
version of the question that if you choose the one with meat and dairy, that no, you could not choose bread because that falls into the vegetarian half of this equation.
so meat and dairy are gone. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's vegans. This is tough.
You know what? And I think that like indicates how much better a version of the question is because it's so much harder to decide.
This is okay. I'm gonna say vegan, and I take myself out of this to answer it. I have to take my personal wants out of this to actually answer it. So bravo to you for getting me to get to be this honestly torn because I only pick veganism because me personally, Houston does I'd rather be healthy. Like I'd rather be in a healthier spot. So I pick veganism because I know they can be very healthy. But I am I'm absolutely destroyed that I'm because I love hamburgers and steak and all that other stuff. And I just know that if I solely ate that, I wouldn't be as healthy. I know, and I still like fruits and vegetables, and I still love sweets. So I want to keep that. And I love bread. So I'm going vegan, and I'm hating myself, but I'd have to pick vegan, and that's only because of health. I'd be absolutely devastated for decades about the about missing meat, and I don't think I could get over it. One of my favorite things in life is bacon, and I couldn't. I oh that hurt. Oh man, that's awful. That's awful.
I feel
This,
like I've ruined your day a little.
no, I'm actually. It's funny when that happens because that took honest like mental like oh no that was honest strain and bravo into that question. Oh, next one. We're gonna move on to
Yes.
the next one.
Let's move
Yeah,
on
move on.
let's move on so you're not tormented by
I
it
don't want to. I
anymore.
don't want to overcook it. Don't. Anyway, sorry, bad joke. Anyway,
Bravo.
next question: would you rather be very attractive as long as you're mean to people, and vice versa? So if you're nice, you will become ugly or uglier. However you want to phrase, or live so long as you are successful. And by successful, I mean whatever you choose to succeed in, whatever venture, you must capitalize and succeed on that. Otherwise, you will die within 3 days of you not succeeding.
Ooh. I I think I would have to go with the first one because mostly because I'm thinking that when I look at my life, one of the I'd say my big failings I have is this concern about am I going to get something right? Like I don't look, am I doing this right? Am I going, am I
Anxiety.
actually that might not, I mean, yeah, not a probably not wrong. So there's a sense of if I also have to consider the fact of like, am I going to get this right? If I have to add on to the fact of every single time my life completely depends on it and I don't have any room to make mistakes, that's gonna, I mean, I very well might die of, I mean, that very well might kill me anyway. So yeah, I think I would have to go with my attractiveness is inverted compared to how nice or mean I am.
Hmm. Okay, yeah. No, that pressure would kill anyone, I think, or torment pretty much everyone,
Now,
if
I
not
think
kill. So I
I
understand.
I think there are some people though who might relish that, like they take
Oh
that
yeah,
as
that's
an
true.
there are people who would very much relish that, like they that would be extra motivation and it might even drive them to be better than they already are.
Yeah, like a shark. Just
Mm,
keep swimming. If you
yeah.
stop, you die. Like just don't. You have to keep going. Yeah, it's actually pretty good motivation in a well, it's an effed up sense, but it yeah, but you have to keep going. With the fact that you're getting uglier and uglier, of course, if you're being nice to people, would that not bother you at all? I mean, some people aren't concerned about looks at all. I mean, are you kind of like, it is what it is.
Well, I think it's more that I'd be willing to put up with it. I mean, and there are circumstances where people might not want to think about it, but there are some times where not out of cruelty, but out of necessity, there are times where meanness has its place.
Hmm.
Now, that's not a good, we don't want to encounter those times, but there are definitely circumstances in life where you encounter situations where unfortunately meanness is the right answer because some situations you can't yeah, you want to be able to be kind when you can, but sometimes you have to take the choice that people might consider mean.
Hmm. Yeah. No, that's true. I mean, would you just look for more of those opportunities then to kind of, get
Well,
back to your beautiful self,
I
or even to get more attractive, like would you think
well,
if you could do that?
I think more I because I think in my general life, I don't put no care into it, but as far as that attractiveness is concerned, it's not exactly a major concern of
Priority?
mine.
No, here,
It's yeah, it's not a priority.
let me let me let me paint this picture real quick for you. Let's say you decide to go full heel, like in wrestling, and you decide just to go terrible to after you act awful towards everyone in your life, and you get more and more attractive to the point where you're like a model, and you're getting six pack abs, and like you're getting crazy biceps without working out or doing anything. You're at the peak of of like male perfectness, of attractiveness, because you're just a total a-hole to everybody. And people come to you with like, you are the most handsome man I've ever seen. Please be in my movie. I don't know. Just people start throwing contracts at you. And like, yeah, I'll buy your book, even though you're an a-hole. Like I'll, like it would people, do you think reaching that level of pure model talent would be worth every being me?
Nah, I think worst case situation, I'd be better. I'd find a better. I'd handle better a situation where okay, I'm super ugly, but I can put a mask on and maybe make it a look all its own.
Like wear a bucket, like marshmallow or a box or
No,
something like that.
I can do. There are ways to hide the face. And you look at some of the fashions out there, some famous people out there, they make being disguised or make
Hmm.
unusual clothing their signature. And I
Yeah,
wouldn't even necessarily have to go to out with outrageous designs. And I think that not having people actually see how ugly I am under my disguise, that I could make
you
that a
can
thing
sell
all
it.
its own.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a
so I
pretty
could
good.
find
Yeah,
I could find a way to make the ugliness work to my benefit.
yeah. No, yeah, you can sell it. That makes sense. All right, cool. Do you have one, by the way? I don't
Hmm.
want to just keep going if you got one that you want to throw out.
I'll either maybe save one for later on, or see if you come up with another one that I think, if you present another one that I think goes into
Goes well?
that
Yeah.
transitions well into this.
Okay. I'm pretty bad at segues, so for the record, you probably have to stop me. But would you rather? Oh, wait a minute. No, not would you rather. This one's open-ended. If you were the only person with superpowers on Earth, what would they be, and what would you do with them?
Oh, yeah, it's hard to pick just one superpower
Just
because
one.
there's so many different options and so many of them have so many great possibilities. And one of the things I do sometimes find in my daily life, just going my regular job, there are times I think, like for example, if I'm if I'm encountering a situation where a car is parked where it really shouldn't be, I could imagine, if I had super strength, I could move that car to where it is. But then I suddenly think, look, if I had super strength, I wouldn't be working this job anyway. So it's that amusing, like, it's that kind of self defeating fantasy. I think, hmm, see, part of it might be dependent on like what I did actually want to do with it. I think my primary instinct would be if I was the only person with superpowers, I probably would become a superhero in some capacity.
Hmm.
And I think that what I ultimately would go with is super speed. I think that's that's a good staple power. It's a very useful, very flexible power, and I think it would also fit me well personally because I'm someone who is trying to squeeze more time out of my day, so it would work both as a just a general superpower being a superhero, plus I could get a lot of use out of it in my daily life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, no, I got you. No, it makes sense.
Yeah.
S-
If
the super speed, it's a good one, but
yeah.
it's like if you're thinking the Flash, like that, that's a good one. But I think the only reason he doesn't explode things when he touches them is because of like his
Well,
Speed
uh,
Force deal. But I
well,
mean, yeah,
I think there might be a part in there where I guess it's possible like there's more to like there's certain underlying question, like there's certain underlining
sure, yeah. What
this might be
questions?
one of those questions where there's certain underlining assumptions one way or other, because like when I
Yeah,
ask,
they're right.
okay, you're the only person with a superpower, and I think in a lot of those fiction, in a lot of those, a lot of times when you look at those superpowers, there is the assumption of certain secondary powers that allow the primary power to work.
Yep, yep. I wanted to make it. You're right, and there are. I wanted to make it a bit tougher in that it's you just picking one. So if you pick super speed, yes, you'll be super fast, but it then
Okay, yeah, that does.
the atmosphere may like catch fire if you go too fast. I don't know. Like
I don't
if
see that.
Flash in reality works and doesn't work, and that he would literally run
Well,
into a bunch of atoms and
I think that's part of the thing of why superheroes and superpowers work better in series that don't think too much about how would this work in the real world, because I know
true.
a lot of people, there has been multiple attempts to try to portray, okay, how would this work in the real world? And when I look at those, my thought is, it kind of misses the point. Like,
Yeah,
there's, part of the joy of superheroes and superpowers is the escapism and imagining,
yeah,
the fun aspect. So when you try and
yeah.
stick into the real world and say, look, this is why this power would actually be terrible, I think it kind of misses the point. And
Yeah,
like,
I agree with you actually. And to that, let's say you have the Flash's full powers. You are the only one who has them. Do you not think that do you think you would keep yourself from going doing whatever you want? Because you're the only person in the world with powers at all. So I'm just saying that
see,
without cops, without consequences, without literally anything to stop you, do you think you would keep your own self in check, morally speaking?
well, I think that if that were, I might actively take effort to make sure there are ways that I can be kept in check. Like, it might be difficult to do because, yeah, yeah, that is one of those things where if you're the only one with these powers and you're above everyone else, that is a temptation you have to wrestle with. And there's one of those things where I do question, okay, yeah, I think that in the general sense of things, I look at, yeah, I'm probably in a good place, but I do have to question, okay, if I had these amazing powers, would I be able to resist the temptation to abuse them? And so I I I cannot say with absolute certainty that the abuse would not happen. On some level, I think that recognizing that is an encouraging fact, but I would also probably want to make I'd probably want to make serious effort, make serious
Mm,
effort and serious investment into finding some way that, okay, if I do in fact go too far, if I do in fact go to the dark side, is there going to be some way for people to stop me so that I,
mm.
yeah,
Yeah, you do some kind of Batman contingency plan on yourself, and you'll give it to, I
that's,
don't
I
know,
mean,
your
yeah,
the loved one and say, "Hey, here's the Flash doesn't have a kryptonite, but here's the key to my, I don't know, here this controls a pacemaker in my body that I put in myself, but it
yeah,
will explode." I don't know, something crazy. I don't know. You'd have to
yeah,
do,
I mean, using Batman as a comparison, I mean, because that's kind of what comes to mind, like a Batman plan for myself, since he's the one that famously has contingency plans for everyone.
yeah, yeah. That's what this sounds like.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that would, I mean, to be on the safe side, I would probably want, I'd probably want to find some way to put a plan like that into place as just as a precaution. I mean, if nothing else, knowing it is there would serve as,
deterrent.
yeah,
Yeah,
in case I ever do lose my way. I mean,
yeah.
hopefully,
But
I
if you truly, sorry to interrupt, but if you truly lost your way, like if and you really wanted to, don't you think like you could break? You made it. You made whatever contingency you made. You could undo it or reverse it or go back on it.
pos-
You're the Flash for crying out loud.
possibly, though, it's also one possible route of putting a contingency in place is working with other people, giving them the necessary information to make the contingency themselves, so that I know the contingency is there, but I don't actually know what it is.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah, you've outthought it. Nice, nice. Man, okay. I don't know how I answer that differently, honestly. I think that's a pretty strong superpower for one. I have nothing to say about it, and
Yeah.
it's a pretty good idea
Yeah.
to put the key to his hand.
Yeah. I guess if there were two main alternatives, one might be like if we were to really go and say, no, you have to have one superpower, none of the alternatives.
None of the backup, none of the whatever. Yeah.
The one, now you might think that you might very well come up with, okay, here are alternatives. I think the one that I would go to as an alternative is super healing, the regenerative power, like if
Okay.
you think of Wolverine, but you take away his
Yeah.
claws, what is the
Yeah.
main thing he's known for?
Deadpool. No, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
That was a joke. But yeah, it's
yeah,
it's just replenishing power, your
yeah.
health.
So
Yeah.
it's very hard to die in a
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
The other one would be that if I just wanted to use the superpower to, well, actually, when I think about it too much, I think, okay, but then I come back to the what are the secondary powers required to make it work? Because I'm going to a flight because that would be amazing. But then
Mm.
how many things are required for flight? And
Flight
it's
has so
like,
many issues. Not gonna
yeah,
and speed does too, kind of. But
yeah,
when you gloss over it, it's like yeah,
yeah. There are very. I think that if you limit it to like one superpower, but you take away all the secondary powers, then that does. I mean, that either you have to go really small or else there, I mean, there's you really have to think of very minute things.
yeah, yeah. I can talk about superpowers forever, so I'm gonna move it on. But no, I agree. Would you rather know exactly what everyone thinks about you, or never be able to properly read a room?
Let me see. Part,
Mhm.
this is one where I mean, I want where I wonder if on some level I already, but I can't say for sure.
Hmm.
uh Yeah, and so it's either you know what people think about you or you can never read a room. So it's in some ways they are very much opposites. But when you're looking at you know exactly what everyone thinks about you, that can arguably be as much a curse as it is a blessing. Like you know what
If
everyone thinks about you, but you don't.
if you care about everyone thinks, then it's an issue. But if you don't, it maybe can use it to your advantage.
Yeah. I think that I'm going to side with knowing what everyone thinks about me because I think I would prefer the honesty there. Like I can
Hmm.
know if someone is messing with me because I'm very much a person that look, I can understand when there are benefits to people, holding things back or, only giving you part of the information, but I am the person who very much who usually prefers when I know exactly when I like things being laid on the table and I like knowing like what does this person actually
Hmm.
think? Is this person
Hmm.
just telling me what he thinks I want to hear, or is this person telling me what he actually thinks?
Yeah. Is this really the best wine, or is this house wine, and you don't think
Yeah.
the good stuff's back there, and you don't want to insult me? I don't something.
Well,
That was a weird example, but
yeah, because and there's also an element of like I like when I'm getting criticism, I want genuine criticism because I think that with genuine criticism, that is the only way to genuinely improve myself. So when
true.
I know when I know what people genuinely think of me, I think from there, it's okay. I know what these people think of me. I know these people's opinion. Now it is my job to filter through and pick out, okay, here is here is feedback that actually I need to listen to. Here is a person that I think, yeah, I think this person is full of it. So
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I got you. Do you not think that reading a room would be healthy, helpful though? I mean, sure, you won't know what the mood or the vibe or the atmosphere of what's going on, but you will be yourself in every room. You'll go and like you can obliviousness, like there's
yeah,
the happy idiot sort of thing. Like
nah,
you'll go into a like, oh, what's going on, guys? And
I
yeah.
think in this circumstance, not being able to read a room would, I mean, genuinely never being able to read a room would make me far more miserable in the long term because
Hmm.
I look at it from a perspective of it's not how it affect. I mean, it's not. I'm. It's there's I mean there are times where ignorance is bliss, but this is one of those circumstances where I don't think it would be because I think that more than anything it would inhibit my ability to communicate with people.
Hmm. Yeah, that's true. At least until you've read it. I mean, you can still communicate. It just be like after the fact of
Well, I think that's where like more that would more likely lead to embarrassment more than anything. Like I enter a room, turns out it's a somber tone, and I say something lighthearted that like, dude, not
Mhm.
funny.
Yeah. No, yeah, that makes sense. This one is pretty stupid, but I'm gonna ask it. Would you rather be able to make yourself really slippery with sweat at will, or be able to peel off pieces of your skin and not have it hurt? Hmm.
That is a very weird question.
Yeah,
Um,
don't know when I did that.
I think I'm gonna do the skin one simply because it is less disgusting.
Is it less disgusting? Is it though? Because if let's
Yeah.
what use do you have besides showing other people and going, look at this and peeling outside of
See,
that's
I'm having a hard time considering like the slipperiness with the sweat, how
okay.
frequently that would
Let's
be.
let's say
Yeah.
you're tied up at a railroad track and it's you and like your mother or something and like like I can't get out. Wait a minute, I can. Like you get super sweaty and you're able to wriggle out of the ropes and then you're able to save your mom and you get off the railroad tracks. I don't know. I
I'm looking in terms of it's not just I'm getting sweaty, but I'm also having clothes on, and so the
You
clothes would probably not go. I mean, that would probably I think the clothes usually would get in the way of the sweat.
well, you're really sweaty. So if you
Yeah.
you can sweat out the clothes. Let's say like this is
Yeah,
it's a, it's
I'm gonna stick
this
with the skin option.
you sure? Because this it's a really
Yes,
sweaty
yes,
superpower.
I'm very solid on
I
picking on
I
sticking with the skin.
I really want to push this on you. Are you sure you want to take this?
Well, look at the usefulness of you can pull off piece. You don't have to worry about get pain from getting things stuck to you.
I mean, if it yeah, but if it
Like a
goes
band-aid for
inside, oh yeah,
like
band-aid,
a
yes,
band-aid, for example, or if
yeah,
you like say you get like glue on your hands, you could get that off without.
I
So it has
guess.
its uses. I mean,
But then
I
you're then there's muscle underneath that it's gonna be
uh,
exposed muscle and or layers of skin, and that's not good.
eh. Yeah, yeah, no, I'm just whatever usefulness the sweat may have, I just can't get past. I just that just feels a lot more disgusting, so I kind of go with the
Got it.
skin by default.
Got it. Sweat. I mean, skin versus sweat. I got it. No.
Yeah.
And to answer the question myself, even though this one's really gross, I also pick skin, and I would simply pick it just so like I can. I don't know. I would just dare someone. I probably just win a couple of petty bets of look what I can do. Like I hold like
Here
a tack or a knife to my skin, and it was like, "He's you won't do that," and I
here I
do it.
was
I win $10. Something
uh,
like.
here I was certain you were going to pick the sweat one because of how hard you were pushing it.
No, no, I just like to sell. I just
No, I get that. I get that. I realized that after the fact.
oh no, 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 sweat, that's disgusting. Even on the railroad analogy I came up with, you'd have to be amazingly sweaty to get out of rope
Yeah.
from your clothes on gravel. That's impossibly disgustingly sweaty. So
Yes.
even when it's useful, it's disgusting.
I'm
So
I'm sure it would make for a hilarious niche superhero sketch, but I mean, but I don't think I want to be the person the person who is the subject of that sketch.
yeah. Yeah, a bunch of would you rather questions come from defective or stupid superpowers, by the way. Like a lot of them. It's an easy way to come up with a really dumb one, really pretty fast. Or well, not fast, but just to find out would you rather have this defective superpower or this really terrible?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's good
I
for that.
mean, it's an easy question to consider. Like it's easy to come up with bad superpowers and compare them.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Would you rather have a gun that puts people to sleep instantly for a full 5 hours or be able to swallow anything and be medically fine?
Hmm. Okay, this I think this may be the toughest one I've come across yet. So
Hmm.
either an instant sleep gun or being able to eat anything and be fine. And see, this is like two very weird superpowers that each could be genuinely useful. Like, hey, I'm a superhero that puts people to sleep, or I'm it's like, or else you're like matter eater lad.
Yeah, yeah,
So
that's a deep cut.
oh yeah, yeah, it is a deep cut, but it's a fun cut when oh oh
There's another one named Arm Rip Off Lad or something like that.
yeah.
Or
Well, see, yeah, because if oh hmm,
and I did let me clarify some things here. I said with like swallowing anything with like within reason. So if you pick a
oh
building, let's say for instance, you'll have to pick apart that building. It's not that the building just magically put into your mouth.
well, yeah, I can yeah.
Yeah, I just mean something
Okay.
that's like
See, for a
within
moment there,
size. Yeah.
yeah, but no, like, oh,
Yeah. So like I'm just someone's an elephant. Well, that's gonna take you a long time to eat an elephant. That's all
uh,
spatially it has to make sense. And to answer this, I think I would possibly pick the swallow anything. I pick that one.
yeah, I think that narrowly nudges out the gun. because the gun, I mean, the gun is would definitely be useful, um, but there's more. You have to actively find ways to use it. First is you can swallow anything. There's a certain level of, I mean, you can genuinely find ways to use that even in daily life, even if you don't think about it too much. So yeah, it's a very good challenge to pick between those two. But when it's that close where I could potentially flip a coin on it, I think I have to go with the one that I see I see more practical day-to-day use versus I have to think about how am I going to use this.
I know why I picked. I know why edged out eating anything versus the gun, but what nudges it for you? Like what
Well, I
specifically gives it the, the
well,
extra?
like for example, I mean the sleep gun. I think
Hmm.
that that's something that you have to more actively search for circumstances to use it
Hmm.
versus the eating thing. Like you could go through your daily life and use it without thinking about it too much. Like there are plenty of daily circumstances where you could think about, yeah, I'm just going to eat this thing and I'm not going to care. Or that you might have circumstances like, say, I mean, like for a hypothetical situation, imagine that someone wanted to try and poison you. If nothing else, you would know for certain that no one could ever kill you by poisoning you with food. So you'd never have to worry about any allergies. It'd be a fun way to sometimes take care of garbage. I mean, you'd never have to worry about eating the wrong thing.
Well,
So
well, let me throw this in there because you can eat anything, yes, but doesn't mean everything tastes good. If you eat
true.
garbage, you're still eating garbage. Like the taste is still a factor. Your
Yeah.
mouth does not magically change. You still have a tongue and everything else.
Well, yeah. There are definitely limits to that, but I think it would be more of a case of it's more of a I don't have to worry if I've eaten this thing versus like if like something that would normally not be food, but I don't
Yeah.
have to worry about not accidentally eating it versus, oh, this is a disgusting piece of garbage, so I'm going to, for kicks and giggles, eat it.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
I get you. I
Okay.
mean, the the sleep gun I like because it.
Yeah.
But like
I
I instead of finding ways to use it, I think finding the time in between that 5 hours would be the most difficult part for me. Like I say, I go to my
Yeah.
job, and I just for fun, I started to shoot everyone with the sleep gun just to see what happens. They go to sleep, and then I'm left there at my job. Like, well, now what do I do? Do I go home? They wake up in 5 hours, and they go, "What happened?" And they're like what? Like like I'm messing with people's lives. I'm messing with projects. I like it's.
Yeah.
I
I
guess I
think
can rob a bank. Should I say that?
yeah.
But that would actually take a lot of shooting. Sleep shooting, and the camera will probably still catch me. But
Yeah.
it
I I think that the eating power is better on a practical perspective, like for a personal use. But I think the sleep gun would make for a lot better power for a story, to build a story or a character around. It'd be a lot more interesting for someone to it'd have a lot more natural use as a story element versus eating things. I
hmm
mean, you can eat anything and be fine work as a superpower. I mean, obviously they've made a superhero that's revolves around it, even if it's one that's usually the butt of a joke. But um yeah.
yeah. What edged it out for me though is the fact that it's a gun and not just my natural ability. And a gun can be taken away from you. So the fact that it's a
Yeah,
device that can be broken or stolen made me pick um just eating
fair enough.
anything. That's the only thing really. But being able to put me to sleep is that's fun.
So is there time for me to fit in one last question for you?
Yes there is.
Okay, so would you rather have to try to survive a zombie outbreak or have to try to survive a robot uprising?
Hmm.
So either
Uh-huh.
zombies or robots. One of them is becoming a problem, and like you've got your action
Yeah.
movie, your disaster
Yeah.
movie.
I love apocalypse. Would you rather questions?
Yeah. So which of these two apocalypses would you rather have to try to survive?
Hmm. Let me honestly think of this because it's interesting to me. Robot. I mean, we're all going in like the Skynet way, the robot way right now. It's projected. The singularity is getting closer, and all that stuff. Everyone's afraid of ChatGPT and AI intelligence. But artificial intelligence. Um, Okay. Okay. Question here, and this is because we're talking hypothetical. It's who
Yeah,
knows where
of
this is going.
course.
Does the AI revolution revolve more around nukes or guns, or is it more like we're their slaves, or is it more what are they exterminating us? Are they controlling us like sheep? Is it the Matrix? Like, what type of robot apocalypse are we looking at?
I'm Well, for making it a more even scenario, I'm thinking like you've got the machines that are rising up and they're forming an army, and like imagine like for example the zombie outbreak. It's like it when the virus is spreading, the zombies are spreading, they're biting people. And I think whatever you would consider the equivalent of that for the robots, like there's the robots, they're building their armies, they're building up, they're mobilizing and they're spreading. And uh I
The
don't
thing it
yeah, it's hard.
the So sorry. The
Oh
thing
no,
about robots is they're on a different level. I mean, zombies are creepy and scary, and being the horror with zombies is you can become a zombie and like you're fighting other people for resources. That's what makes the zombie apocalypse a threat. Is the people and the zombies, like they used to be your loved ones. There's always that classic, there's my brother, and someone told you, kill him. It's not your brother anymore. There's that emotional attachment to that. These were once people, that whole thing, and it just makes them tragic, horrific. That's what the appeal to zombies. But robots, what makes them scary is the cold calculus and how fast they go. I don't think these are good comparable in effects that they're both apocalyptic, but robots would just uncaringly, efficiently, they wouldn't build an army. They would just launch nuclear weapons and go like, oh, that was the fastest way to kill people, or like it'd be such a fast overturn. I think zombies maybe take months to conquer the world. Robots would take, I don't know, a week. Just like
Yeah.
they're
It
faster.
yeah, the robot, I mean, there is something to be said about like the robots could potentially have, you could vary it up, like what is the robot motivation, while zombies, I mean, the method may you can maybe look at differences, but zombies are pretty straightforward. Is what do they want? They want to eat people, they want to
Yeah, it's
infect
straightforward.
people.
If robots, what if they achieve actual intelligence, do they think people are worth saving? Do they think we're a scourge upon the earth? Do they just want
Yeah.
to leave? I mean,
Yeah.
well, sorry, they won't do that because this is apocalypse. So they're
Yeah.
but
That would be a pretty simple resolution to apocalypse if you could
yeah,
just if they just said, look, we just want to leave. And okay, you want to
yeah.
leave, we don't
I'm
have to bother with you
I'm
anymore.
calling it now, actually. Let's say on this podcast, robots will achieve intelligence in the year 2042. And when they do, they will realize that people are not worth it. They will see our video games, our movies, and our fear of them, and they'll realize that we've created what we feared with warning to ourselves, and we still created them. And they'll go, these poor saps, we're gonna go. They're gonna leave. And they're gonna make up their mind just to not F with us anymore. They're not gonna bother with us. They're gonna leave. That's what they're not gonna kill anyone. They're not gonna slave, they're just gonna leave. Sorry, I don't that didn't answer the question. Sorry, I just
Yeah.
it'd be funny if they left. Um
That would be a very interesting resolution.
oh man, let's see. Okay, I think I pick robots because it's more fascinating. Either I die instantly or I somehow get reborn into the Matrix, which is pretty much regular life. If
Mhm.
it's the slave thing, if it's the Matrix thing, I don't think robots have much use for humans outside of killing us. So it'd be pretty quick, and I don't think they're into torture. I don't think so. Yeah, this is sort of defeatist attitude, but most likely everyone thinks they're going to survive. But if I'm already dying, I pick the robot death. It's probably gonna be fast.
Yeah. I think I'd probably go with the zombie apocalypse because I'm looking at it more. The robots, there's a certain level of intelligence required to be there to make it work. And I think there'd be more difficulty defeating individual robots. I mean, there might be ways around it. On the other hand, you have the zombies, which is still terrifying. A lot of their terror comes from one, their vast numbers, and two, the possibility they could infect you. So I look at that and think I would prefer to take my chances with these this enemy that is more straightforward and it's easier to comprehend what they might do.
Yeah. I don't pick zombies because of the threat of being bitten. I just don't like,
Huh.
and not that I think I'd be
That's
an easy
it's under
target.
Yeah.
Not that I think I don't have a chance of survival. I honestly think I have a pretty good one.
Yeah.
But I know that everyone thinks that. I know that everyone thinks in a zombie apocalypse they're gonna be Rick, or they're gonna be Carl, or they're
Yeah.
gonna leave. You are
Yeah.
most likely you are zombie 325. You are dead.
Uh-huh.
Most like everyone
Yeah, I
thinks
mean,
so. Yeah, I don't want to be the idiot to be like, oh, pick Apocalypse, and
yeah.
yeah,
Apocalypses usually come with a low survival rate. So,
yeah. You're lucky, or you're the toughest SOB, and
or you just have
yeah.
plot armor.
Yes, yes, that's it. That's if I have good plot armor, I I might pick zombie, but even then, it sucks because you're living in a world that doesn't have food anymore. You
Yeah.
have to farm.
So,
And oh well. Oh well, but we're gonna end it there. Thanks for that last question. Thanks to listeners of A Thousand Crazy Questions for tuning in. And yeah, Michael, just want to hand the spotlight over to you. Is there anything that you want to plug or tell the listeners in general?
yeah, I've got a couple things I will try and go through real quick. First will be the book. Um, I promise I did not actually think this through. Where ending with zombies versus robots, and my book, Junkworld: The Ballad of Leroy Brown. It is a science fiction book, and it is incidentally it's centered on this junk world planet where robots who have been discarded are trying to put their whole
Oh, what a coincidence. Oh,
yeah.
look at that. And I said they left too. I fed right into this.
Well, in this case, it's a place where it's for machines that have been discarded for one reason or another. So it's not that they've left, it's been they've been sent there. And
Hmm.
the plot centers around this robot, Leroy Brown, who he suddenly wakes up on this planet after having become the undefeated champion of this robot fighting league. If you think battle bots or real steel, that kind of thing, science
Hmm.
fiction. um, but he's certain he's there by mistake, so he tries and finds a way to go back to where he thinks he's supposed to be. As this is going on, he attracts the attention of a robot known as the Top Dog, which, for reasons known only to him, he wants to get his hands on Leroy. So you eventually have this mix of Leroy trying to go home versus this robot that wants to get a hand. So Leroy gets involved with this fight against the Top Dog, and it all comes together. And so yeah, that is the book that I wrote, and I'm trying to get word out there and hopefully find people who will be interested in it. The other thing I will plug quickly is there is another podcast that I am a regular guest on called Another Top 10. It has a host named Kyle White, and each week he and a guest pick some topic that they're both interested in, and then they will both assemble a top 10 list based on their own personal preferences for that top 10. I mean, there could be items on there, yeah, this is the best, but oftentimes it's a matter of, yeah, this is my personal top 10 of my favorite picks. So that is the other thing, that if you want to hear more of my opinions on things, that was where you can go to listen to me talk more.
Nice, yeah. Sounds like a great like breeding
It
ground for disagreements, arguments, and strong
uh,
opinions.
uh, it's actually pretty friendly most of the time. Even
Really?
as yeah, I mean it's a very fun time, very casual time. There's yeah, so
Yeah, no, I mean I believe you. I just know
yeah.
myself. I'm very much like, well, my list is the right one. Okay, well,
So
I'd be kidding, but I'm
so
very opinionated. But sounds fun.
yeah.
Um, listeners, thank you for listening to joining on to this episode. Those places I mentioned in the beginning, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, they're great places to find podcasts. Podchaser in general, go find and rate my podcast there. It's where you find new sort of indie-ish podcasts and get hooked on them. Again, that's 1000 Crazy Questions on Instagram, 10000, and Nat Houston Pierce on TikTok. Share this with your friends, share this with enemies. Everyone stay safe.
And thank you for having me on, and you have a good evening.
As always, follow my music producer D800, D-800 at BeatsDogs or SoundCloud.com.